Welcome back to Crash Bandicoot. In our recording, the first 10 to 15 seconds of audio are cut off. I don't know why, but I'll probably fix that in post. I also mentioned that the dance was kind of changed a bit. The original was it had a crotch chop instead of the Running Man thing. But they reverted back to the old one in Crash 4. This is one of my favorite songs in the game and one of my favorite areas.
A very beautiful river level.
Yeah, this is kind of like a new take on the up the creek levels from Crash Bandicoot 1. Anyway, we're going to hit this checkpoint, and as soon as we do, a timer is going to start. Yes, we are on a mechanical surfboard. I'm forgetting the name of it. Anyway, don't worry about all that. You can boost forward, but we got to beat this clock. So we need to move fast. Yeah, forget that blue gem. We'll discover it later. Grab the crystal. Get out of here. The jet was pretty hard to control in the original, and it's pretty faithful in the remake. I'm just blanking out now on the actual name for it. I'm sure that I'll make fun of it when I'm editing this video. Yeah, sometimes these ramps can be a little finicky. There are actually two different jump arcs, depending on whether or not you boosted into the ramp. Anyway, we gotta grab this. This is the second crystal. Some levels actually have multiple gems in it. I said crystal before. I'm sorry about that. Anyway, we drown ourselves here, we still keep the gem, which allows us to get all of the stuff in this level in one trip. Just so long as you didn't hit any of those other checkpoint boxes earlier. Just the first one.
Aha, okay. The time segment was to get that first crystal then.
Or the first gem. You're making the same mistake I did. But yeah, there are some levels, quite a few, that have secondary gems, which are they are always some weird objective they have to complete, like beating a timer. Weird thing about the timer, it's a hard 1 minute 5 seconds as soon as you hit the checkpoint in the Sane Trilogy. That was actually changed from the original, in which it was 1 minute and 30 seconds, but it started as soon as you entered the level, and it would not show you the clock until you got up to the surfboard. I'm going to keep getting this name wrong. You get to that first vehicle section, that's when the timer actually shows, and it's running in the background as soon as you enter the level, and you have no idea that the timer is there.
That's terrible.
Yes. This is the other purpose of the colored gems, is that they open up secret paths in other levels. Basically, because they no longer have the one run requirement for getting the clear gems like it did in the original Crash 1. Since that has been removed, they try to use the gems in other ways. Most of them are successful. And yes, the nitro boxes do bounce, and yes, it does affect their hitbox. And those mines are one-hit kills, so stay away from them.
Okay, so they really ramped up the difficulty in the first few levels.
I would say that it's difficult if you're trying to get the gems. That's been, again, something the Crash formula, it became well known as a game that you can beat easily, but if you're going for 100%, that's where all the difficulty is.
Gotcha.
And yes, as a kid, I also tried to get over to that platform with the two man-eating plants. And no, you can't do it. At least not without like a Game Shark or something.
And even if you do, I'm sure there's nothing there.
Yeah. Those hippos, they will sink into the water if you stand on them for too long. Pretty standard platforming hazard. And this is where you need to be a bit more careful. The game really likes to put mines directly in the path of where you're supposed to jump. So you gotta be careful with that. And there you go. That's how to get all of the stuff in one trip.
Well done.
Remember, kids, suicide is only useful in video games. Don't do it. Yeah, in the original, there was just a single animation for Crash bringing out the crystals and gems.
3 crystals. Not bad. I see you are getting the hang of it. I need to conserve power. I will communicate with you again after you retrieve the 5th crystal.
That is actually a reference to a conversation that was cut from the Sane Trilogy because it's no longer needed. So I will be showing that conversation in the bonus content.
Crash Dash, the less successful sequel to Crash Bash.
Anyway, this is the boulder level, one of a few boulder levels in Crash 2. Everyone loved them from the first game, so they came back. I love the more intense music, and I love the more intense boulder. And yeah, they place mines on the ground. Surprisingly, mines don't actually hurt you. They're only there to slow you down. Although, I mean, if you hit a mine, you're pretty much guaranteed to get crushed by the by the boulder anyway. There's also a different animation, which I'm convinced that I managed to trigger once, but that must have been a hallucination. But it's an animation from the original that apparently didn't make it, even though I convinced myself otherwise. Thankfully, the boulder destroys any boxes, although there are of course strategically placed boxes that the boulder will not break. It's also not all boulder running. There are some moments, not just for breathers, but also for like small bits of platforming as well. You gotta spread things out a little bit.
So between the first game and this game, they got their bearings a little bit with what they were gonna do.
Yeah, the first game was very much experimental. It was at this point that they actually had the confidence to make a really great 3D action game. This is one of only a immersively very few sections of breaking boxes. Like, you remember those happening all the time in the original.
Oh, yeah.
Thankfully, there's not that many. There's also a speed boost. You basically have no control, but it does let you go very fast. I was close to having a clean run on this, but unfortunately this was my best take and I died in the middle of it. And you will want to very specifically hit every boost panel you can during this section, because the game is very sneaky. Actually, no, I'm thinking of a later level where they do that. The game is very sneaky, but there's a particular set piece where you pretty much have to hit all of the boost pads in order to do a certain thing. That's one of the later boulder levels.
He is really getting used out of the old prison wallet.
And here's another one of his auto animations that I didn't show off last time. And now we're going to go into the pits. The pits being a metaphor for his memories in prison.
I'm expecting to see a sign that says, "Welcome to Pittsburgh."
Nah, this looks too nice for Pittsburgh.
We apologize to our viewers in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, all my viewers from Pennsylvania just immediately unsubscribed. Well, it was nice knowing you.
Yep, both of you.
So these are the vultures, which you may remember from Turtle Woods in the last video. This is where you're actually supposed to be properly introduced to them. Because body slamming a random bit of the ground, yeah, like I said, there is not nearly as much of the bullshit that really hampered the original game. Also, that was I forget the exact name for it, but it's basically the inverse of the spiked turtle that we saw before. If you try to jump on it, you take damage, you have to spin it.
I thought it looked suspiciously like a turtle with a buzzsaw on its back.
That's basically what it is, yeah. And another thing about Crash's body slam, it has a very, very small area of effect. And that is actually something that was rectified in Crash Bandicoot 3 with a particular move, but we'll get to that later. This is also another level with split paths. The camera is your worst enemy here. Although they did a better job of it with the Sane Trilogy than in the originals. I realize you may be awestruck by this game, but you are allowed to talk.
I know! I'm looking for the best spot here. So...
Improv comedy is hard, folks.
It is a little difficult. There are moments in this game where I am seeing the definite quality of life improvements over the first one.
Yeah, and it's weird talking about this because a lot of quality of life stuff from Crash 2 and 3 were backported into the Insane version of 1. Like, for example, you could see how many boxes you break in a level in your inventory in the HUD when you press the triangle button. But you couldn't see, until Crash 3, you couldn't see how many boxes there were in total. That was something that was added in the Sane Trilogy. And also, while we were busy riffing, I showed the other way to defeat the buzzsaw turtle, which is to slide on it. In which case, it acts similar to how you would jump on the spiked turtle. And this area is a bit of a puzzle. There are some areas like this, the bonus areas, where you have to figure out a way to get back up. Because you remember that there were some invisible boxes that have now been activated by the exclamation mark switch.
Aha!
Yeah, that's something it has been present, but I haven't really talked about it, which is that there's like something of an invisible timer on the striped boxes, the ones that give you 10 weapon fruit, where eventually if you jump on them a little bit and then you stop and then come back to it, it'll break instantly and the other weapon fruit just disappear, I guess.
So it's kind of like the coin blocks in Mario Brothers, where if you don't hit them fast enough, there's not as many coins.
Yeah, actually, I hadn't considered that. Yeah, it is pretty much like the rapid fire or like the multi-coin boxes. There is a way in the original to actually just skip the entirety of the pit without even having to jump into it, but that requires exploiting some of the hitboxes on the sides, which the Sane Trilogy doesn't have.
So now, unless I'm counting wrong, we should have all of the crystals.
Yes. And there should be a conversation triggered, but that was removed from the Sane Trilogy. And that relates to boss fights. The Sane Trilogy changed how you actually enter a boss fight. You remember that save door? Since you could autosave or save at any time, they changed that into the portal to enter the boss fight.
And we have another fight with Riparoo!
Yeah, I like how they treat the 100% ending as canon. He's studying for his dissertation. And if I remember correctly, he's actually referred to as Professor Roo in the instruction manual. So he still likes explosives, but he set up this little, like, saw-style trap, and you have to go to specific areas in the arena to avoid getting blown up. There's also a neat little remix of his theme song from the first game.
Very clever.
This is also the only time in the franchise that TNT boxes have a fuse that is longer than 3 seconds. Although I do remember, I think it was in some custom levels made by the community for Crash Bandicoot 2, where they changed the timer on the TNT boxes from 3 seconds to 1 second, and made entire levels based around that. I'm gonna have to see if I could track down the videos for it.
I'm just kind of shocked there were custom levels made.
There were. I mean, it took years and years. I think it only happened in like the mid-2010s maybe, but it took a while for level editors to be made. Well, I hope I didn't interrupt your studies, Professor Roo. Maybe next time. I look forward to your dissertation and defending your thesis. Anyway, here's the cut conversation with Cortex.
Listen up. We are not without enemies. Some of them you may even recognize. Although they cannot harm you inside this warp room, they can attack you on your way to the next way. To get to the next warp room, use the platform that appears in the center of the room. Good luck.
So this is something that stumped a lot of new players. You walk into the center of the room, and you use the D-pad to move up or down.
Oh.
And that's how you get the boss fights. And here's the animation I was referring to. If you make it out just in time, you get thrown out like that. And this is also the original version of the Crash Dance.
Jeez.
It's pretty much unchanged, aside from like one move, which again got some purists very angry.
I don't see the difference. I'm just seeing the two Spider-Men pointing at each other.
So, pop quiz. Do you recognize the original Neo Cortex voice?
You know, I usually have a hard time putting names to voices.
I'll give you a hint.
He sounds familiar.
I'll give you a hint. He is probably the only actor to have been in both the Marvel Cinematic Universe and a David Cage game.
Oh, no. I mean, without Google, I'm not going to get that one.
It's the legendary character actor Clancy Brown.
Huh.
Yeah, this was... it definitely wasn't his big role. He'd been acting for years and years before that, but I think it was the first big video game role that he had. He played Cortex in pretty much all the Naughty Dog games, and then Lex Lang took over as the new voice in the Vicarious Visions, Activision, Vivendi era of Crash. Lex Lang is pretty good, but I think he's better as the form of Cortex that is more comic relief than villain.
Yeah, this is a more villainous tone. I've heard some of the Lex Lang stuff, and it's not the same.
He is really good when in later games where Cortex is basically a shadow of his old self and is basically he resorts to
a broken man, broken by Australian dogma animal things. No longer able to do evil.
Yeah, in the later games where he's basically a stooge to other cooler original villains, that's really where Lex Lang shines. And while I have you here and while you're recording, I mentioned before that there was a specific meme that only made sense if you saw a bit of Crash Bandicoot 2. So I'm going to send you the link in our private Discord right now, and I'll have you react to it in real time and show it on screen. The depressed crash dance is a personal favorite of mine.
The dance is nothing compared to the face at the end.
Yeah.
I can play that on loop and be happy forever. At his expense.
If I go to the Steam page, I'm pretty sure that one of the top pieces of community content is just a gif of the sad crash dance. I'm glad we've captured that moment for the internet.
Leave it to the community. Good job, guys.